people are getting prepared for what's going to be an extremely exciting series between the Amherst Ramblers and the Truro Bearcats. And as you know, Bill, it goes back a long ways that Amherst and Truro loves to do battle with each other. Even back in the days when you were refereeing. So the Amherst Ramblers have an extremely talented hockey team, and the expectations, of course, are for them to go deep. But the division, the South Division of the Maritime Hockey League, with Summerside, Amherst, Truro, and Pictou having all made the playoffs, it's going to be highly, highly competitive. All of those teams can beat each other on any given night. And with the Ramblers, the fall has really, really been increasing on a regular basis. They're getting high attendance.
You're telling us quite a story about the game, the teams, the league, and the playoffs, all of which is absolutely true. It's an exciting brand of hockey. More people are getting interested. The chances of filling up the stadium are even better. But all of a sudden, seemingly out of nowhere, you've got some new rules coming forward, and the rules beg a question. You can't take a backpack to the game. They seem to be picking on the companies that make portable coffee mugs. Some tells me there's a story behind the story.
Well, you just want to make that's what I was leading up to saying, is that you want to just make sure that you have a safe environment, as that it becomes an enjoyable experience for all those in attendance and for all those that are playing. It's not a town council decision. You had asked that earlier. It's an operational decision that's done in consultation with the security services, with the Ramblers, and with the all the individuals. Like, when we say new rules, you never were allowed to bring alcohol into a public place. When you say new rules, you never were allowed to be very boisterous, screaming profanities. You can't do that in any public place. And we want to just make sure, and when I say we, I think the whole town wants to make sure that it's an enjoyable experience for everyone.
So these rules really are to kind of put a muzzle on a crowd that may easily get out of hand. And you and I both know that crowds of any kind can very easily and very quickly be manipulated into mobs. And I guess that's really what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was talking to someone a little earlier today, and I was saying, I remember back, and you remember, I'm talking 50 years ago, back in the day when we were playing, after the people would leave the stadium, the rink attendants or the rink rats, and I was one of them, would go along sweeping out the stands, and it'd be clunk, 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 and it'd be full of bottles and that type of thing. The culture of hockey has moved on the ice, and the culture has also moved on in the stands. So we just, like I say, I think it's important that we have a safe environment. We want to have the loudest, most boisterous crowd in the league, and making all the noise and giving that seventh player kind of advantage to our hockey team. That's what we really want to encourage. But we don't want to have a situation where there's any kind of violence in the stands or people that are inebriated in the stands and that type of thing. Alcohol is sold there, and it's done, and we have to make sure also that the liquor license that has been applied for the stadium can be maintained, and that there's no breaches of that.
But usually, as you know, laws are written or rules are made following some kind of an incident. And, I was there. I used to get up in the broadcast booth right there just in the last couple of years, did a few games, play-by-play and color commentary with Daryl. And
Daryl Cole.
Yeah, and, we didn't have incidents of any kind. And I'm just wondering, did this come about because something happened recently?
From my understanding, there's no one particular incident, but there has been an increase of inappropriate activities in the stands. So rather than, letting it get worse, it's important that you curtail that because we're going to have, I'm expecting, you could be having over a couple thousand people in that rink. Tickets have gone on sale this morning and they're selling like crazy. It's one of the biggest events that are going to be taking place this playoffs in recent years in terms of the numbers. So I think with some of the, not any one particular incident, but several smaller incidents that I think the security, the stadium, the police, and the Ramblers, they just want to be proactive in making sure that it's curtailed to having the best event possible.
Well, and let's hope it is indeed, and that's why we wanted to get the word out before tomorrow night's game, the opening of the semifinal series. And as you pointed out, the entire division, the 4-team division, all made the playoffs. You talk about being a competitive division, and then you also made reference to a long-standing rivalry between Amherst and Truro. And that's Truro coming into town tomorrow night with, like you say, a few thousand people may well be in attendance. We want them to be loud and clear, but not unruly. And so that's the important part. Tell me a little bit about what you know about the hockey, the current hockey, that is. Who are you putting your money on?
Well, obviously, I'm putting my money on the Ramblers. I even did a Facebook post.
You're kidding me.
I even did a Facebook post and reminded some of the Truro Bearcats that I played with in the 1975 Canada Games that maybe they want to put a wager. I guess they're not following me on Facebook because I haven't had any offers of a wager. And of course, that's a wager to go to a food bank or something like that. But Truro's deep. They have good goaltending. In fact, they picked up a goaltender that I'm very familiar with my work with the Halifax Mooseheads, Milner in goal. They have a couple of key goal scorers on that team that are very hard to stop. And then Amherst, I mean, like their top six line, the top six and forwards, they can all play in the queue. They're 20-year-olds that, because there's only allowed 3 20-year-olds in the queue, there's only so much space. So Amherst is very lucky to get a lot of guys from the Quebec Major League through their draft process. They've been able to identify these guys early, and they have them on their roster now. I really and honestly do put my money on Amherst because I think they just have so much depth. They're big, they're fast, they're strong, and they're skilled.
No question about it. And we've witnessed the changes. The one good thing, the one wonderful thing about junior hockey is that there's no such thing really as a dynasty. The kids grow too old to play in the league, of course, and they move on to something else. Some of them, of course, make it to the NHL, to say the least. But because of the age limit, you constantly have to renew yourself. And as a consequence of that, there's no one team that can own it all, and money can't even buy it. And you have a lull from time to time where the team maybe doesn't make the playoffs, and other times when they get in but don't complete it. But this is a year for Amherst. It is a year for them to lose. As a matter of fact, they are deep and they are entertaining. And frankly, we lose sight of the fact sometimes that Junior A hockey is a very high caliber of hockey. And as you pointed out, there are some players from the Major Junior League. There are players from Amherst who've gone back up again, if you will, to the Q League. So we're talking about the highest level of hockey capacity and ability in the land. It's good hockey, isn't it?
It's extremely good hockey. There's a couple of players from the Amherst Ramblers that have already committed next year to university hockey teams and high-level university hockey teams. The universities are scouting. We keep an eye on it from the Q perspective. I know from the Mooseheads, the games that I attend, there's certain players that we have targeted that we keep an eye on, as do other teams, and players will move up. Jameson George, for example, is a Halifax prospect that plays defense for the Ramblers. Jack Hain is a Moncton Wildcat prospect that plays for the Ramblers. So, both teams will obviously be keeping an eye as well as other teams do. So, I mean, like it's an experience that we don't often have, and we've had some lean years for the last few years. But this year is kind of like, it's a possibility. When I say it's a possibility, going all the way is a possibility. It's not like we want to win a round and do well. It's a possibility, but don't count your chickens before they hatch. Anybody can win the playoffs.